You're thinking about going to grad school for a STEM-related degree, but you're not quite sure what that means. Graduate school means either a master's degree or a Ph.D. And usually a master's degree takes about 1 to 2 years, although it can take longer, whereas a Ph.D. Takes somewhere from 4, 5, 6 years to get the degree. Again, it can take longer. Outside of the US, PhD programs are sometimes only 3 years, but you have to already come in with a master's degree, so it still works out to 5 years. These programs can be interconvertible. So, for instance, I went and got a master's degree and then afterwards decided I wanted to go for a PhD. I don't get any credit for those first 2 years. It's not like community college transferring to university, something like that. I have to start over the PhD with everybody else. However, if you start as a master's degree student and then at that same university, you do the paperwork and you transition to being a PhD student, then for the rest of the time there, you are working towards a PhD, and that's the degree that you walk away with. Conversely, if you start a PhD program and you get a couple years into it and say, I don't really want to do this, you can often convert that to a master's degree. That way you still leave with a degree rather than getting nothing for the years that you put into it. There are other differences between a master's degree and a PhD. So one of the important ones is that you're generally paid a small stipend while you're in a PhD program. In a master's degree, you're usually not paid. It's like undergrad. So you pay tuition and then that's why you get to be in school. This is not always the case. And sometimes you can find programs where you can get paid to do the master's degree as well. Certainly, money is going to go into your considerations about whether or not to go to grad school and which kind of grad school to go to. But keep in mind that the 2 years that you spend doing a master's degree and not getting paid any money, when compared to the much longer PhD where you're making very low wages, it might not actually work out to be more money for the PhD holder. For instance, if that master's degree student graduates after 2 years, gets a job, and starts working in their field, moving up, getting raises, advances, while the PhD student is still stuck at that very low stipend that we get paid for our research, the PhD student may start at a higher salary than the master's student started at, but even over time may not catch up with the master's student who has just been working that entire time. So money is definitely a consideration and you should think about that, but that's not the only thing you should think about when deciding whether or not to go to grad school and which kind of degree to go for. As a STEM graduate student, you will have an advisor who is the primary person responsible for helping you develop as a scientist. So there are two major kind of categories of ways that you find that person, that main mentor. So the first one is called a direct admit. And so some fields, this is how it goes. Very often, this is how it is for a master's degree, meaning you make contact with an individual person who is doing something that you want to learn how to do. They say, yes, I will take you into my laboratory, and then you work for them and they are your mentor. The other major way of finding your advisor for graduate school is what's called rotations. And so this is very common in certain fields like molecular biology. That's what I study. So in this kind of setup, you apply to a university, you get into the university, and then as part of the program, you'll do 3 rotations, maybe more. So let's say for 2 months, you work in a laboratory, you learn all about the kinds of problems that they try and solve, the techniques that they use, you get to see the lab culture, you get to see what the advisor is like, see if you like them, if you're a good match, is your mentoring style similar to their mentoring style, and then you rotate into another lab and you spend 2 months there, and then a third lab and you spend 2 months there. And then at the end of it, by mutual decision, you pick an advisor and they pick you, and then that's your person. And so for the rest of your time in your PhD program, that is the person who is training you, and that is the person whose laboratory you're working in. Just depends. These are 2 different ways of doing it. Graduate school is primarily a research degree. So as an undergraduate, just like in high school, a lot of what you did was probably learn information, take it in, synthesize it, and then at the appropriate time, share it back in the form of tests or assignments. Graduate school is different because what you're learning to do is create knowledge. So as a graduate student, you are going to make discoveries, new discoveries about new informations, which will someday be part of the textbooks that undergrads are studying. In my program, it literally says in the student handbook that in order to get your PhD, the student has to make a unique and significant contribution to scientific knowledge. You got to discover something. I think about it like this. Imagine a town that is having earthquakes and sinkholes, and it's suspected that there's something going on underneath the surface. So a researcher appears, a brave, hardworking person that says, I'm going to dig and find out the answer, and I'm going to come back to all the rest of you with some information. And so maybe this person has to get together funding, equipment, they're going to have to learn some specialized skills, and they start to dig. And they dig down, take readings, take pictures, get some actual information about what's happening down there. And they come back up and they report on their findings. And they say, there's a cave system down here. Hard to tell. I didn't get to go very far. So that one person is able to confirm that there's maybe something going on. But to really map out the system, we're going to need more researchers. We're going to need other people who put in the effort and go down and look around and report back on their findings. And gradually, together, we start figuring out answers to what's happening down there. So during your PhD, you may say, I see a gap in the field and I want to connect two different types of knowledge and I'm going to figure out what's going on there. Or you may say, there's an area that's already been explored, but I think that there's more to learn about what's going on down there. Together, all of us digging in our respective fields, we can figure some stuff out. So the product of your PhD is two things. One, your thesis, your work that you do, your discoveries that you make. But more importantly, the outcome of a graduate degree in a STEM field is your personal transformation into a researcher. Researchers are kind of different from other people, right? You're going to learn how to analyze data, how to design experiments, a bunch of specialized skills about how to do experiments. You'll learn how to communicate your results with other people, with other scientists, with the public, and you'll learn background knowledge and important controversies in some field. So what the degree really is it's a whole group of researchers, of other people who are making this effort to map out the secret underground mysteries of some field of science. And that group of people says, yeah, they're one of us. During your graduate program, you are going to have a whole bunch of mentors. You are going to need a lot of people to help you on your journey to become the researcher that you will become. It takes a village to raise a scientist. And that's true for you, and it's true for every one of your professors. It's true for every scientist that there's ever been. We have to help each other, and you should expect that you are going to be receiving mentoring. So part of what you're going to have to do is find these mentors and say, hi, I'm here to learn, and I think that you might be the person to teach me. No two graduate degrees are the same because you are going to go in a unique direction. Remember, you have to make a unique and significant contribution to scientific knowledge. If you do what somebody else has already done, that's not going to work. You have to forge your own path. So if you want to go to graduate school, think about what kind of problems do you want to solve? What kind of skills do you want to learn? What kind of job do you want to have? What kind of scientist do you want to be? Those mentors are going to help you figure that out. So I know those may be kind of daunting questions, but if you find people that you can talk to and say, hey, I'm thinking about going to graduate school, but I'm not really sure what to go for, they can talk this through with you and help you figure out what you want to study. If you want to apply for graduate school, you're going to have to put together some materials. So you're going to have to get a personal statement, a CV, which is basically like a resume of your academic work, maybe a research statement. If the school requires GREs, I suggest that you stay away from them because it means that they're not keeping up with the times, and you need somebody cutting edge so that they can help you become a cutting edge scientist. And you're going to need 3 letters of recommendation. So I'm going to make some more videos explaining how you do all those things and how you find it. If you're interested in going to graduate school, click on my other videos and drop a comment if there's something that you want me to explain. There's so much fun scholarship to do. And I'm going to talk about the bad things about going to grad school too. But if you want to learn to dig, there's treasure down there.